Grounded no more. The story of Zion Matthews. Zion Matthews lay sprawled on the scorching tarmac, blood trickling from his lip, the thick summer heat clinging to his skin like a second insult. Towering above him stood Captain Garrett Colburn, barking into his radio with clipped urgency. "I've got a trespass-surged security out here now." Zion blinked, stunned, wind knocked clean from his lungs. At just 16, his dreams of flying had shattered like the thin threads of trust he'd spent years building. The badge now crumpled near his foot, once his golden ticket, meant nothing. Just hours earlier, Zion had stood in his family's modest Dallas kitchen, a proud grin stitched across his face. The letter trembled in his hand's confirmation from Vanguard Airlines' Youth Aviation Program. He'd been selected to shadow a commercial pilot for a full day at Dallas-Fort Worth International. He'd poured months into his essay on the evolution of jet propulsion, given up weekends to sketch cross-sections of turbine engines in his spiral notebook, and learned to identify planes by the hum of their engines overhead. "Eat something," his mother urged from behind him, her fingers weaving his curls into neat braids. "You're vibrating, baby." "I'm good, Mom," he said, barely above a whisper, eyes glued to the words, "Congratulations, Zion Matthews." Across the room, his father Martin leaned against the counter in a tailored shirt and slacks, sipping coffee between phone calls. He was a man of few words, but gave Zion a nod filled with pride, deeper than any speech. Zion had never quite understood what his father did for a living beyond aviation security consulting. All he knew was his father carried weight, and people listened when he spoke. Now, Zion's sketchbook lay bent in his backpack. The badge with his name and photo had gotten him past the checkpoint that morning. A staff member named MS. Benitez had greeted him with a firm handshake and a smile. "You're gonna love today," she'd said, leading him past glass walls and humming terminals to Hangar 3. She told him to wait inside. "Your mentor's running behind. Look around if you want. Just don't touch anything." Her words had carried the warmth of trust. So he looked, and when he saw the gleaming cockpit door cracked open, his heart leapt. He stepped inside, reverent, eyes sweeping over dials and switches like sacred text. He touched nothing, or at least almost nothing. A light graze over the throttle, a finger tracing a control panel. That's when the air shifted. A shadow. Captain Garrett Colburn stood in the doorway. Tall, stern, his pale blue eyes scanned Zion from head to toe. "Who let you in here?" he asked, voice like stone. "2M with the youth program. MS. Benitez brought me." Zion held up the badge, but Colburn didn't even glance at it. "You got 5 seconds to tell me why you're poking around my plane before I drag you out myself." Zion swallowed. "I'm supposed to be here, sir. I swear." That's when Colburn shoved him. Hard. Zion hit the wall. The backpack slipped off his shoulder and hit the floor with a thud. "You little punk think you can sneak into a restricted hangar?" Colburn hissed. His eyes narrowed on Zion's braids. "Your kind doesn't belong near this tech." Zion froze. He'd heard those words before in whispers, side glances, the quiet policing of belonging. But never this loud, never this cruel. Then Colburn clicked his radio. "Security, Hangar 3. I got a black male, teenager unauthorized. Possible tampering." "Tampering?" Zion's head spun. "No. MS. Benitez, please, just call her." But it was too late. Security arrived. Big men in gray. No questions, no hesitation. They cuffed him like a criminal and dragged him into a side room. The cuffs bit his wrists. His chest heaved. A guard muttered, "Kids these days think they're smarter than they are." Another snorted. "Should have known. Never seen one of them in a cockpit unless it's a rap video." They shoved him onto a cold bench and locked the chain through a steel loop. He tried again. "Please. I was invited. I didn't touch anything. I have the badge." One guard picked up the plastic ID, squinted, and threw it in the trash. "It's fake," he said. End of story. Zion sat alone, wrist chained, his dream dissolving. Then Colburn returned. He had a crowd now, the pilots, some staff, holding up Zion's badge like a trophy. "This," he declared, "is why we tighten security. This punk could have jeopardized a flight, maybe even a bomb threat. Zion's jaw dropped. That's not true. Someone in the crowd began recording. Colburn grinned. Tell her what you were doing, son. I was just looking, Zion whispered. The crowd murmured. Cameras rolled. That clip 5 seconds would later hit the internet and be spun into proof of guilt. The headline? Teen confesses after sneaking into aircraft. They drag Zion into the open terminal. Cuffed. Publicly humiliated. A woman clutched her purse tighter. A man muttered, figures. No one asked questions. Not until Zion's father got the call. Martin Matthews did not shout. He did not rage. But when he showed up at the police station with a federal ID badge and a lawyer in tow, everyone started whispering. Martin was more than an aviation consultant. He was the lead liaison for the Federal Aviation Oversight Bureau. He didn't make recommendations. He made decisions. When he saw his son bruised and in cuffs, his voice cracked with quiet fury. Release him. Now. But it wasn't over. The next morning, Zion was suspended from school. Pending investigation, they said. His scholarship to the aviation program? Revoked. MS. Benitez had tried to reach out, but her messages had been scrubbed. Martin launched a full inquiry. He requested footage from the hangar, filed a discrimination complaint. The media caught wind, and then came the final straw, a SWAT raid on the Matthews home. Someone had planted a Boeing 737 technical manual in Zion's backpack classified pages, meant only for pilots. It was enough to slap him with federal charges. Zion was arrested again, this time for espionage, handcuffed in his own living room. The mugshot spread. News anchors raised eyebrows. Youth aviation hopeful or inside threat? But in the background, Martin moved like a quiet storm. He uncovered everything. Footage showing Colburn slipping the manual into Zion's backpack when no one was looking. Voice recordings of Colburn calling Zion a security risk. Payment records to a janitor who claimed Zion had boasted about sabotaging the plane. And, finally, militia connections. Garrett Colburn had once been a donor to a white nationalist aviation group. When it all came crashing down, Colburn didn't go quietly. He hired mercenaries, had Zion's bike slashed, Lena's car set on fire, even a bullet through their living room window. But it wasn't enough. Martin released the files to the press. The FAA stripped Colburn of his license. Lone Star Airlines issued a public apology. We are ashamed, their CEO said, and we're making this right. Zion was cleared of all charges. His scholarship reinstated. And more than that, the FAA invited him to speak at their annual youth summit. I came here to fly, Zion told a packed auditorium. But I had to fight first. The crowd stood for him. And at the back of the room, Martin watched quietly, his arms crossed, pride softening the storm in his eyes. Later that year, Zion climbed into the cockpit of a commercial jet as a trainee. This time, no one questioned if he belonged there, because by then, the world knew he did.